All right, guys, welcome to the Mortgage and Money Morning Show. Today, we're going to talk about 5 other mortgage topics that you should be asking about other than your rate. Most people focus on the rate. Hey, what's your best rate? What's your best rate? There is so much more to your mortgage other than your rate. Although the rate is important, the rate that you qualify for in your unique situation could be different than the rates that you're sourcing and seeing online. However, we do have access to all those great rates, but we want to make sure that we get the best rate for your situation. Now, rate is part of it. What are some other things you should be concerned about? The number one thing you should probably be asking about when you're sourcing a mortgage right now is what are the prepayment provisions, early payout provisions, i.e. if I have to refinance the mortgage or if I sell and move on the property, what am I going to be paying to break this mortgage? Now, if you're with one of the big 6 banks, sometimes those penalties can be astronomical depending on the rate that you got when you had the mortgage and the current posted rates that they have now. If you're with a monoline lender, those penalties can be a little less severe, but either way, you want to make sure you know how those penalties are calculated and what they could look like down the road if in fact you do have to break your mortgage. The reason I say this is the most important one is because somewhere around 3/4 of mortgages will break before the term is up in the mortgage. So it is critical and it is one of the most important elements of your mortgages. What are the prepayment penalties in case I have to get out of this mortgage? Second thing to ask about, portability. Is the mortgage portable? If I have to move or my life is going to change in the next couple of years and I move to a new property, can this mortgage go with me? Can I take it with me? If you're porting to a property that's worth more and you have to add to the mortgage, lenders may look at the 2 rates that are involved at the time you get the mortgage. There could be a blend and extend situation to move the mortgage with you. If you're downsizing and you're going to a smaller property with less mortgage, let's say you're moving from a $500,000 home to a $400,000 home, you may have to pay a penalty on that $100,000 difference because you're essentially prepaying that portion of the mortgage for the port to move it to the new property. So portability is something you want to be concerned about. Number 3 is assumability. This is kind of the opposite, meaning, hey, I sold my property, I'm moving on to a new property. Can the new owners come in and assume that mortgage? And maybe I can avoid some penalties on breaking the mortgage. So is the mortgage assumable to a new buyer if you have to sell the property? Fourth thing you should ask about, fees, especially if you're in the alternative lending or private lending situations. Fees can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of mortgage balance. So if you're getting a private second mortgage and the fees are 3%, lender 3% brokerage fee, that's 6%. So that's an extra $6,000 in fees that would get capped into the mortgage. So you want to make sure you know upfront what your fees are. And that's usually found also in your disclosure to borrower. So when we do the mortgage signing, you can see what in the disclosure to borrower, we disclose everything that you're responsible for in terms of extra fees and your APR interest rate and that kind of thing. And the last thing to focus on too is what are the default terms of the mortgage? Meaning some lenders constitute default and have different definitions of default than other lenders. So what are the default terms? What constitute default? And how could you end up in default if you end up in a bad situation? And once you're in default, what are the terms and conditions and penalties moving forward? And what should you be aware of to be protected? So although rate is the number one question people ask about, those are 5 mortgage areas that you should be asking about as well when you're going to source your mortgage. So hopefully you found the information valuable. I'm grateful that you've chosen to sit through and watch the Mortgage and Money Morning Show. I'm going to ask you a favor with a 1-line sales pitch. Please tell everyone you know. And if you missed an episode, you can always check my YouTube channel, Joel J. M. Scott. We've got over 40 different episodes there with 40 different mortgage topics. And if you have questions in depth anytime, you can always reach out to me at joelscott.ca, any of my social media channels, or you can call 905-376-1625. Thanks for watching the Mortgage and Money Morning Show.